One handshake was supposed to seal a deal. Instead, it lit the fuse on one of the biggest feuds in Huntsville history. From business partners to bitter enemies, Marsau and Martell Holt's fallout isn't just about money, it's personal, it's messy, and it's tearing families apart. But here's the real question. Who's telling the truth? What should have been a simple handshake to finalize a business deal quickly spiraled into one of the most heated rivalries in love and marriage, Huntsville history. Marsau and Martell Holt, once trusted partners and allies in both business and brotherhood, now stand as sworn enemies. What began as a seemingly minor professional disagreement has snowballed into a personal battle touching every corner of their lives, family, friendships, and public reputation. For longtime fans of the show, the breakdown of this partnership is shocking but not entirely surprising. After all, Huntsville has always been a city where loyalty, legacy, and ambition collide in unpredictable ways. But the feud between Marsau and Martell isn't just another squabble, it's a fracture that could forever alter the fabric of the show itself. The question remains, how did things go so wrong? And more importantly, whose version of events should anyone believe? At first glance, the drama looked like nothing more than a disagreement over contracts, percentages, and shared responsibilities in a joint business venture. Marsau and Martell, both driven entrepreneurs, entered into what appeared to be a mutually beneficial partnership. On paper, it made perfect sense. Martell's charisma and ability to command attention complemented Marsau's reputation for discipline and strategy. They marketed their partnership as a powerhouse collaboration that would elevate not only their own portfolios but also inspire their Huntsville community. However, as often happens when egos and expectations clash, the cracks began to show almost immediately. Martell, who has long been portrayed as a man confident to the point of arrogance, reportedly wanted more control than the paperwork allowed. Marsau, on the other hand, is said to have stood firm on structure, insisting that boundaries and agreements be respected. That initial tension, subtle and easy to dismiss in the early days, would eventually become the seed of a much larger explosion. Once the financial questions surfaced, who invested more, who deserved more, who truly had the vision, the situation became less about money and more about pride. Both men felt undermined, both men felt disrespected, and in a show where perception is often as important as reality, neither man was willing to appear weak or outmaneuvered. What could have been resolved in a private office quickly spilled into the public eye, with comments, interviews, and sly remarks transforming a business fallout into a televised war. It didn't take long before fans, bloggers, and castmates were weighing in, choosing sides, and amplifying the tension. The audience that once celebrated their partnership was now watching its implosion like a slow-motion car crash, unable to look away. But the feud didn't stop at money. As the disagreements deepened, the personal shots began to fly. Martell, never one to shy away from confrontation, allegedly accused Marsau of being manipulative and disloyal. Marsau, in turn, suggested that Martell's downfall wasn't about contracts at all, but about his inability to separate personal issues from professional obligations. This wasn't just about a failed business deal anymore, it was about integrity, trust, and image. For Martell, whose reputation has already been tested by highly publicized marital struggles, the stakes were even higher. For Marsau, who has carefully cultivated an image of being level-headed and respected, the threat of being painted as a backstabber or secretive player cut deeply. What truly escalated matters, however, were the stunning accusations that surfaced in the wake of their feud. According to whispers in Huntsville, Martell began to circulate claims about something Marsau allegedly tried to keep hidden, information that, if proven true, could reshape how fans perceive Marsau entirely. Was it financial misconduct? A betrayal within the circle of friends? Or something more personal and private, intended not to inform but to humiliate? The details remain murky, but what's clear is that the insinuation alone has fueled speculation, mistrust, and anger among both the cast and the audience. Reality television thrives on conflict, but this particular clash feels heavier, messier, and far more consequential than the average storyline. To understand why this feud resonates so strongly, you have to consider the ripple effects. Love and marriage. Huntsville has always been about more than just marriages. It's about how relationships, both personal and professional, intertwine in a close-knit community. The breakdown of Marsau and Martell's partnership doesn't just affect them. It reverberates through their friendships, business circles, and even their families. Friends of both men are finding themselves pulled into the dispute, forced to choose sides or remain silent at the risk of being accused of betrayal. Family members, 2. Are caught in the crossfire, watching as loved ones air grievances not just in private but on camera, where millions can dissect every word. And then there are the fans. Social media has become a battleground of its own, with hashtags, Instagram lives, and YouTube recaps all dissecting every development in the feud. Some fans argue that Martell, with his history of public scandals, simply cannot be trusted and is trying to deflect blame onto Marsau to salvage his image. Others insist that Marsau, while outwardly calm and professional, may not be as transparent as he appears and could very well be hiding details that justify Martell's anger. The divide is sharp, and in many ways, it mirrors the split within the cast itself, creating tension not just between Marsau and Martell but within the larger ensemble that holds the show together. The deeper you dive into Marsau and Martell's battle, the more explosive it becomes. At its heart, the feud isn't just about money or contracts. It's about control, respect, and the desperate need to be seen as the one in the right in a world where perception often matters more than reality. Both men are fighting not only for their businesses but for their legacies, their reputations, and their place within a franchise that has made them household names. And when personal pride mixes with public scrutiny, the results are combustible. What comes next is anyone's guess. Will the accusations Martell has hinted at be revealed in full? If so, will they devastate Marsau's carefully built reputation, or will they backfire, painting Martell as vindictive and unreliable? Can friendships within the group survive this level of division, or will the feud split the cast in ways that producers never intended but fans may find irresistible? Whatever the answers, one thing is certain. The Marsau vs. Martell rivalry isn't just a storyline, it's a seismic event in the world of love and marriage, Huntsville. And if history is any indication, the fallout has only just begun. To fully grasp how two friends turned partners ended up at war, you have to rewind the story to its roots. Because once upon a time, Marsau Scott and Martell Holt weren't enemies at all. In fact, they were closer than many viewers realized. Their bond grew from ambition, shared vision, and a brotherhood rooted in Huntsville's booming real estate and construction scene. Together, they saw opportunities to create generational wealth, elevate their city, and leave a lasting legacy. When Love and Marriage, Huntsville first came to life, the show wasn't only about couples on TV, it was a platform to showcase Black excellence, entrepreneurship, and the struggles of balancing business with marriage. Marsau and Martell, alongside their wives, Letitia Scott and Melody Holt, became the faces of this movement. To the audience, they embodied the possibility of building success while maintaining family, brotherhood, and community. At first, their partnership looked solid. They collaborated on projects, encouraged one another's visions, and leaned on their friendship. To many fans, they stood as proof that Black men could work together, uplift each other, and navigate the challenges of fatherhood and marriage while still chasing their entrepreneurial dreams. But like most business ventures, cracks eventually appeared. Pride, ego, and money can complicate even the strongest bonds. And for Marsau and Martell, those cracks widened until the foundation of their partnership collapsed. What was once a model of brotherhood and success soon became a cautionary tale of how quickly loyalty can unravel when personal lives collide with business. Both men carried powerful personalities, but their approaches to leadership couldn't have been more different. Martell, outspoken and bold, favored fast, aggressive moves. Marsau, on the other hand, valued patience, strategy, and caution. In the beginning, those differences balanced each other out. Martell pushed forward, while Marsau pulled back when necessary. But over time, what once worked as balance turned into friction that neither could ignore. By season 1 of Love and Marriage, Huntsville, fans had already picked up on the tension. What looked like playful banter often crossed into subtle shade and sharp digs. Arguments over business spilled into conversations about marriage, blurring the lines between professional disagreements and personal battles. Insiders say that by the time their clashes made it onto viewers' screens, trust, the foundation of both business and friendship, had already started to crumble. Once cracks appeared, the collapse was inevitable. The real mystery is, what exactly pushed them over the edge? Was it money, ego, or a deeper resentment that had been simmering for years? Like any empire, this partnership had its breaking point. For Marsau Scott and Martell Holt, it didn't happen all at once. It built slowly through small disputes, unspoken frustrations, and whispered conversations that eventually erupted into full-blown confrontations. Business was always the center of their bond. They both thrived in Huntsville's booming real estate and construction industry, and on paper, they looked like the perfect duo. Martell was the ambitious visionary, while Marsau was the meticulous strategist. Together, they had the potential to dominate, but fans of love and marriage, Huntsville know better than anyone mixing business and friendship can either create an empire or destroy one. The first visible cracks came from disagreements about growth. Martell wanted to expand fast, taking risks and pushing boundaries, while Marsau preferred a slower, more sustainable approach. What began as a clash in business philosophy quickly revealed a deeper issue. Neither man was willing to compromise. Behind the scenes, money troubles only added fuel. Missed deadlines, disappointing returns, and disputes over financial responsibilities made tensions worse. Business partners and associates started noticing the shift. What was once smooth teamwork now looked like a battle for control. But the problems didn't stay confined to the office or construction sites. The feud bled into their marriages, friendships, and eventually, their public image. Martell's highly publicized struggles with Melody Holt clashed with his image as a businessman and family man, while Marsau faced his own pressures as whispers of infidelity in his marriage to Letitia Scott began to spread. What started as business disagreements became personal attacks, played out under the scrutiny of cameras and fans. One moment that still lingers in viewers' minds is when Martell openly questioned Marsau's integrity and alluded to secrets about his marriage. What should have been a business debate turned into a spectacular, public airing of private matters that blurred the line between professional fallout and personal vendetta. Marsau, usually calm and sarcastic, wasn't about to let Martell's accusations slide. He clapped back with shade of his own, making it clear this was no longer just about contracts or real estate, it was personal. And when the wives got pulled into the storm, the conflict exploded. Melody, already reeling from her struggles with Martell, had no hesitation calling out Marsau when she believed he was enabling shady behavior. Letitia, fiercely loyal to her husband, jumped to defend him, sparking fiery clashes with Melody. Suddenly, what began as a professional rift between two men escalated into a family feud that played out on national television. By then, Marsau and Martell weren't just arguing, they were fighting for dominance, respect, and credibility not only in business, but also in their marriages and public lives. Their partnership had devolved into open competition, and the most unsettling part, neither man showed any intention of backing down. Fans thought they had already seen the worst of this feud, but the truth was, things were just heating up. What lay ahead would prove this wasn't about real estate anymore. It was raw, personal, and destined to change love and marriage, Huntsville forever. If the cracks in their business relationship hinted at trouble, their on-camera battles turned those cracks into earthquakes. What started behind closed doors now spilled into the living rooms of millions of viewers. Martell, already carrying the weight of his very public affair and divorce from Melody, walked into these confrontations with something to prove. His reputation as a man, a father, and a businessman was on the line. Marsau positioned himself as the sharp-tongued voice of reason, delivering sarcasm that often cut deeper than it seemed. But sarcasm only works so long before it becomes a weapon, and Martell wasn't the type to let anything slide. One of the most unforgettable confrontations erupted during a cast meeting. Martell, tired of being painted as the villain, turned the spotlight onto Marsau. He accused him of hiding skeletons and even dropped a bombshell insinuation about infidelity rumors swirling around Marsau. Fans were stunned. Marsau, instead of denying the claims, laughed them off, a move that only fueled speculation further. It wasn't just drama anymore. It was strategy. Martell was shifting the narrative, making sure he didn't go down alone. But Marsau wasn't about to let Martell control the story. In later episodes, he pushed back hard, framing Martell as reckless, irresponsible, and desperate for attention. He attacked not only Martell's personal life but his credibility as a businessman, suggesting Martell wasn't someone anyone could trust with long-term partnerships. For Martell, those words cut deep. Business wasn't just about money, it was his legacy, his chance to prove he could rise above mistakes. The tension grew so toxic that it infected every cast event. What should have been dinners, parties, or celebrations turned into battlefields. At one infamous dinner, a casual conversation escalated into Martell loudly confronting Marsau about his fake image. Letitia leaped in to defend her husband, clashing head-on with Melody. Voices rose, tables nearly flipped, and fans were left gripping their seats. This wasn't just a feud anymore, it was about power. Martell wanted to show Marsau wasn't above him, while Marsau worked to prove that. Martell's chaos was proof of his downfall. Each encounter brought fresh accusations and nastier insults, blurring the line between truth and rumor. And for viewers, it was electrifying. They weren't just watching drama, they were watching reputations being rewritten in real time. Outbursts exposed his raw vulnerabilities, while Marsau's dismissive sarcasm made some wonder what he might be hiding. Social media debates exploded after every episode. Fans dissected words, body language, and shady Instagram posts to decide who was really telling the truth. Just when it seemed things couldn't get more explosive, the show teased even bigger revelations, receipts, text messages, and betrayals that could shatter not only friendships but families. By then, it was undeniable. This wasn't business beef. This was war. A war that dragged in spouses, friendships, and even the futures of their children. Both men acted as if they were winning, but behind the bravado, cracks in their armor were starting to show. The question became, how far were Marsau and Martell willing to go to bring each other down? And the damage wasn't just emotional, it was real. Martell, once seen as a powerhouse entrepreneur with visions of generational wealth, now found his reputation crumbling. His personal scandal and divorce had already weakened his image. And when Marsau began questioning his financial reliability, it struck at his professional credibility. In business, reputation is everything. And Martell's erratic behavior was scaring off potential investors. Marsau, meanwhile, positioned himself as disciplined and professional through his company, Schultz Industries. He projected stability and calculation. But Martell's repeated accusations of dishonesty and rumors of infidelity threatened to crack that polished exterior. Though Marsau brushed them off publicly, whispers spread in Huntsville's business circles, leaving people to wonder if he was as squeaky clean as he claimed or simply better at hiding his flaws. The fallout also hit home. Martell's feud with Marsau dragged Melody and his children further into the spotlight, while Letitia went toe-to-toe with Melody in fiery arguments. These scenes, some of the most explosive in the show's history, proved this wasn't just about two men anymore. It was about families, loyalty, and pride. Even the children weren't immune. Both men often spoke about building legacies for their kids, but their very public feud cast doubt on the foundation of those promises. Critics began asking how they could be role models while tearing each other apart in front of millions. Ripple effects didn't stop with them. Other cast members were forced to take sides or scramble to remain neutral, creating fractures in friendships and alliances. The feud became bigger than the men themselves. It destabilized the entire group dynamic. And on social media, the war only grew. Fans analyzed every interview, screenshot, and shady comment, debating whether Martell was misunderstood or manipulative, and whether Marsau was composed or simply hiding skeletons of his own. The feud itself became a brand, fueling online conversations and shaping how both men were perceived far beyond the show. Twitter threads broke down timelines with forensic precision. Instagram bloggers posted receipts late into the night, and YouTube commentators turned entire channels into platforms for dissecting every move the two men made. Suddenly, the conflict wasn't confined to love and marriage. Huntsville was bleeding into the digital landscape, where opinions spread faster than facts and narratives were shaped in real time. The irony was hard to ignore. In their attempts to outshine and outmaneuver each other, both Marsau and Martell unintentionally revealed vulnerabilities that fans latched onto with relentless energy. For Martell, his reputation for impulsiveness and past scandals was magnified. Every time he raised his voice, every time he threw a verbal jab, critics called him predictable and accused him of leaning into chaos to stay relevant. His defenders, however, argued that he was simply passionate and unafraid to call things as he saw them, positioning him as a truth-teller in a cast full of polished pretenders. Marsau, on the other hand, found himself under a different microscope. His calm demeanor and carefully measured responses, once seen as signs of maturity and professionalism, suddenly drew suspicion. Was he really composed, or was he quietly hiding something bigger? Each time Martell hinted at secrets Marsau didn't want exposed, speculation exploded online. Was it financial mismanagement? A broken promise to another business partner? Or something more personal that would shake his family life? The longer Marsau stayed quiet, the louder the chatter grew, with fans filling in the blanks with theories that often took on a life of their own. Beyond the online noise, the fallout extended into Huntsville's real business community. What was once seen as a promising partnership that could elevate Black entrepreneurship in the region now looked like a cautionary tale. Investors who had once been excited to align with Marsau and Martell grew hesitant, wary of being associated with public feuding. Potential collaborators pulled back, not wanting their names tied to drama that overshadowed any professional gain. Local business leaders whispered about the damage being done not just to Marsau and Martell, but to the city's reputation as a hub for opportunity and innovation. Behind the glitz of reality TV, the cost wasn't just bruised egos, it was lost contracts, fractured relationships, and opportunities that might never return. Meanwhile, other cast members found themselves unwillingly pulled into the battlefield. Choosing neutrality was nearly impossible when fans demanded loyalty and both Marsau and Martell expected support. Some friendships quietly dissolved, others became public spectacles as people picked sides, often airing their grievances on camera or through carefully worded Instagram posts. The ripple effects were everywhere. A casual comment could ignite a firestorm of debate, and silence was often interpreted as betrayal. The show's producers, no doubt, recognized the ratings gold of such a feud, but even they couldn't control how deeply it reached into the cast's personal and professional realities. By this point, the feud wasn't just a storyline, it was shaping how both men were defined outside the show. For some viewers, Martell was permanently cast as the villain, unable to escape the perception that he thrived on conflict and destruction. For others, Marsau's image as the stable, level-headed businessman cracked under the pressure of persistent rumors and insinuations. In a strange twist, both men were fighting to prove their strength, intelligence, and respectability. Yet both ended up exposing their weaknesses for the world to scrutinize. And that's the irony that struck hardest. In trying to prove who was stronger, smarter, or more respected, both Marsau and Martell exposed vulnerabilities that left fans questioning them more than ever. Their feud revealed the fine line reality TV stars must walk between authenticity and strategy, between protecting one's image and feeding the audience's hunger for drama. And while the cameras eventually stop rolling, the consequences do not. The fallout wasn't just entertainment, it was real money lost, real opportunities squandered, and a Huntsville business scene increasingly tired of the chaos. This was no longer just television, it was real life, and the consequences were permanent. In the end, both Marsau and Martell may have gained notoriety, but the cost of their rivalry is still being counted in strained partnerships, fractured friendships, and reputations that may never fully recover.